A young woman on her way home is walking down a city street. And like most nights, downtown empties out after the workday ends, leaving the streets quite deserted. She hates when she has to close the store and walk alone to the bus stop. However, she's excited that in a week she'll be starting a new job in the same neighborhood where she lives. She just has to endure these last few nights, closing the store in the afternoon and having to walk alone to the bus stop. Her most immediate concern is that her music suddenly stopped. The young woman picks up her phone to check. Dead battery. She hates it when that happens. Now she would have to spend the whole bus ride staring at nothing. Through the window, she hears a noise. What was that? The woman looks up. She saw someone. Something on the other side of the street is in the dark, and all she can see is a large, shadowy figure. She doesn't look for long and starts walking again, picking up the pace a little. She can hear the sound of footsteps and looks over her shoulder. The person on the other side of the street is also moving and seems to be matching her pace, avoiding the streetlights and staying in the darkness. She starts to move a little faster and so does he. The young woman holds the pepper spray in her pocket. She doesn't know what this person is doing or what they want, but she's already prepared for whatever comes. She keeps walking and looks again. He's crossing the street to get closer. The young woman enters an alley and starts running like crazy. She goes as fast as she can, Duka can. She looks back afraid of what she might see, but there's no one there. She keeps running, reaches the bus stop and finally stops. She tries to catch her breath and looks at her watch. The bus should be arriving now. Around her, she doesn't see any sign of a bus passing by. Everything is deserted. And to make matters worse, the shadowy figure is coming out of the alley, heading toward her. She takes the pepper spray out of her pocket and puts her finger on the trigger. The shadowy figure keeps moving toward her. When suddenly the dark street is lit up, the woman looks back to see her savior. It's the bus. She turns to see the shadowy figure, but he's running into the alley, man, like the light is pushing that crap away. The woman lets out a sigh of relief and finally allows some of the tension in her body to be released. When she gets on the bus, she feels immense relief. I've never been so happy to get on the bus, she says to the driver while swiping her card. The driver doesn't respond. Actually, he doesn't even look at her, so she goes to sit somewhere. The bus is pretty empty, and she chooses to sit in the back by the window. As the bus pulls away from the stop, she could almost swear she saw the shadowy figure standing in the alley, looking at her. The bus drives through the empty city streets. As the woman looks out the window and tries to calm her heart with deep breaths, she manages to do so. As she approaches her stop, she reaches out to press the bus alarm, and the stop is requested. But the driver shows no sign of stopping or even slowing down the vehicle. She presses the alarm again, but there's still no sign that the driver will stop. When she sees her building go by, she shouts, "Hey, that's my stop!" She goes up to the front. "Didn't you hear? I'm getting off here." Still no reaction from the driver. Hey, she reaches out and grabs the guy's shoulder to make him look at her, right? He collapses to the ground and his eyes show that he's not alive. She gets terrified and realizes the bus is going to crash at any moment, since there's no one driving it, right, man? Oh my God. But when she looks at the steering wheel, she sees that it's still moving by itself. How can something like this happen? The woman is in total panic now. She screams and bangs on the door, but it won't open at all. She looks at the other passengers. Mano and everyone is the same. The driver, man, it looked like those guys were dead. Oh my God, what madness. The bus keeps speeding up and the young woman doesn't know what to do. It was probably going 200 kilometers per hour. My partner turns the corner sharply, throwing her against the wall. And at that moment, one of the passengers falls on top of her. And she can tell, guys, that they haven't been there for a long time. The bus finally goes to a deserted area of the city. And from that moment on, its digestive process begins. Gastric juices are released and its nourishment is started. This terrible creature takes the form of a vehicle and captures unsuspecting victims, using them as a source of energy. So my friends, if you're on a bus and the driver doesn't stop my partner, be careful. You might be the next victim of Bus Eater. Guys, I just released another comic in the cartoon store, Cat vs. Siren is a story that takes place in a land destroyed by these bizarre creatures and shows the battle between these two titans. Who will be the winner of this battle? That's the big question we all want to know. And if you don't know, there's a story about Leo Augusto and Grandma in an adventure against the forces of evil. Children from the neighborhood are mysteriously disappearing. What could be happening? Will Leo and Grandma be able to solve this mystery? We have other comics too. Add the store's WhatsApp number and we'll be here to assist you. Who are you talking to? He seems nervous and hesitant to answer, but after being questioned again, he admits that he was talking to Mrs. Fonte. The father is confused and the boy explains that she is nice, just like his mother. He thinks the woman from the fountain might be his mother. The father sighs, takes the boy's hand, and leads him back inside the house where the father is organizing a small gathering with friends. A guest asks the father if everything is okay, and he tells her that he's fine but that he's worried about his son. It's been a tough year after the death of his wife, and he's afraid his son might be developing some issues because of this loss. Later that week at school, the children were supposed to draw pictures of their families. The teacher goes from child to child. She wants to know what he's drawing. The boy says it's a drawing of him, his dad, and his mom. That deceives me. She lives at the fountain. The teacher doesn't understand. His mother lives at the fountain. That's right, says the boy. The fountain in his backyard, which was his favorite place in the whole world. His mother said it was a magical place and it was the reason they bought the house. After she died, he heard a voice coming from the fountain. It doesn't sound like hers, but he knows it is. She lives in the fountain now, and I visit daily to talk to her. The father thanks Teacher O for the phone call and promises that he will talk to his son. That night, when putting the boy to bed, he says that he knows he misses his mother, but he needs to stop with all these statements about a woman at the fountain. He needs to accept that she's gone and will never come back. As soon as his father leaves, the boy gets out of bed and goes to peek out the window. He watches the reflections dancing. In the water of the fountain, the water suddenly becomes still, until a hand, which seems to be made of water, emerges from the surface of the fountain and waves at him. The father leaves the bathroom and looks inside to check on his son before going back to his room. He gets startled when he doesn't see him lying there. He calls for his son and can't find him. He runs to the window and there is the boy walking toward the fountain. But what really catches his attention is the woman, translucent and shining in the moonlight. The father runs down the stairs and goes out to the backyard, where his son is in an embrace with a woman made of water. He is terrified, but his paternal instincts take over and he pulls the boy away from the creature. As he pulls, the boy notices that the woman's figure dissolves and the liquid falls into the fountain. The boy doesn't understand what's happening. The next day, the father calls the local priest. The priest tells him not to worry, that he'll be there soon to take care of the matter. Arriving at the house with two helpers, he tells the father that it would be better for them to go inside and stay there until they are called. The boy is crying, begging them not to hurt the kind woman from the fountain. The father has to struggle a lot to hold his son, who is crying and thrashing around, but he eventually manages to get him inside the house, leaving the priest and his helpers to take care of the matter. After that day, the boy went there to see if his mother was still there, or rather, the woman from the fountain, but he never saw her again. He doesn't know what happened that day, but he just wanted to have one last meeting with that woman again. A young couple is having fun at an arcade. He just lost to her. At one of those dance machines, they catch their breath and walk through the arcade. It's not crowded tonight. The two of them can choose any game they want. Her boyfriend notices something. It's a door at the back of the arcade, and the lock latch is kind of open. You know what I mean? They got curious, thinking, are there broken games in there? Maybe the ones that let you play without having to spend any money. The two agreed to go in and found a dark room that doesn't seem to be visited much, full of cobwebs and dust everywhere. My partner and really, man, there were a lot of broken games in there. They're leaving when they hear a noise. They stop and look at each other. The young woman screams in fear when she sees an old woman looking at her. Her boyfriend laughs at her for being scared of a game. It's just an old fortune teller. They must have turned it on by accident and didn't notice. Its inside is now lit up, revealing the animatronic head and torso of an old woman. It's not moving, but its glazed, lifeless eyes keep staring at the young woman. The two exchange uncertain glances until the old woman suddenly comes to life. With the click and the zombie, she seems to take a deep breath. The young woman walks toward the fortune teller while the old woman keeps breathing. But then out of nowhere she stops. There's another loud click as a card appears from a small slot at the front of the machine. She looks at the card, then looks up to see that the old woman is looking at her once again. As if the robotic figure is watching her, the old woman grabs the card, and at the exact moment she pulls it, everything goes dark and the old woman collapses. "What's this? Your boyfriend?" he asks. She looks at the card and her expression changes as she reads it. "Hey, look at this," says her partner as she quickly hides the card in her pocket. He gets behind the old lady's machine and pulls out a small piece of wire that had been cut. It wasn't even connected, it was just sitting there, so they got out of there. Later that night, the two of them are at the young woman's apartment door. He asks if she's okay, and she replies that everything's fine. And they probably pressed the button and the machine turned on since there was still power in the battery. She says goodbye and goes into her apartment. Inside, the young woman leans against the door. She takes the card out of her pocket that came from the machine, and it says the following.
"It looks like you've made some mistakes. Some things are unforgivable, aren't they?"
That's not possible. It must just be a coincidence. It can only be a coincidence. She goes to her shelf and takes a framed photo. It's a picture of her many years younger with her sister. And she starts thinking about that night, the night she'll never forget, no matter how hard she tries. The night she drove her sister crazy and also a part of herself. She puts the photo back on the table before looking at Ella, the card she's still holding. In her other hand, Ella crumples the paper in her fist and throws it in the trash before going to bed. Late that night, the young woman tosses and turns with nightmares. When suddenly she wakes up, Ella heard a sound. She looks around her dark room, but nothing seems wrong. She hears the sound again. Where is that noise coming from? From the closet. Ella gets out of bed and goes there one slow step after another. She reaches the closet door, but the moment her fingers touch the handle, the door bursts open. She screams and falls backward as several arms reach out from the darkness of the closet. She kicks and struggles against the arms grabbing her, trying to pull her inside. She fights with all her strength. As she tries to crawl away, Mano manages to escape their grasp and stands up, runs out of the room, and goes on. Meanwhile, the arms keep following her, stretching out of the closet, growing longer and longer. The sound of bones twisting and breaking as they form new joints to bend. It's agonizing. Her hands reach for the doorknob and she grabs it. Just as the arms grab her, the young woman is pulled back and falls to the floor while the arms drag her down the hallway. She tries to resist, but it's useless. It's late Saturday night in New York. It's exactly 11:55 post-meridian. A man is running toward the subway station on 59th Avenue. He just got off work at a restaurant where he's a waiter. It was an unusual night and he finished his shift late. He's in a hurry to get home and spend some time with his girlfriend. As he approaches the station, he notices something strange. Someone has put up a barrier at the entrance. The man had never seen anything like that before, but he thought there might be some repairs going on there. Looking from the outside, everything seemed normal inside. And he's in a hurry and doesn't want to have to walk several blocks to the next station. So he goes through the barrier. What could happen, right? As he walks to the platform, he starts to doubt his decision because inside, it's empty as hell. He didn't see anyone around. Maybe he made a mistake by entering the station. He turns to leave but hears a train approaching. Well, everything is normal, so he'll be able to get home really quickly. He checks his wristwatch. It's exactly 11:57 post-meridian. The train stops and its doors open. It looks a bit older than the trains he's used to taking. However, it's working, right? So let's go inside. And there's absolutely no one inside. Only then does he hear something at the station. He turns and sees someone running on the platform yelling, "Stop, stop." It's a man wearing a transport company vest who is running desperately. And just as he's about to reach the door, it closes. The employee shouts again to stop so he can get off there. But it's no use. All he can do is watch the train leave and disappear into the darkness. With a sigh, he picks up his walkie-talkie and says, "We lost another passenger to the ghost train." The man doesn't know anymore. He's just embarked on a very dangerous journey. Every Saturday, the train arrives at exactly the same time, 11:57 post-meridian. It opens its doors to board or disembark passengers for exactly 1 minute. Then it closes and disappears. Until the next week, it is believed that the train travels to a parallel world almost identical to ours, only much darker and grayer. The only ones who managed to come back were a 75-year-old man and his little dog. They stayed on the train for a week and did not get off in the other realm. He said that when he got there, he saw his whole family who had already passed away, and he was about to get off to give them a hug because he missed them so much. But his dog started barking and didn't let him get off. Man, and then it hit him that it wouldn't be a good thing. And he stayed inside the train for a week. When he realized it, he saw that he was at the station where he had boarded and managed to get out of that creepy trip. This is a story about Jorginho. His parents had already noticed that he didn't like to bathe and stay clean like most people. Since he was a baby, when his mother took him to the bathtub, just the sound of water falling was enough to make him cry. At 6 years old, Jorginho was already hitting his mother for giving him a bath. She had a lot of difficulty keeping her son clean until at 8 years old, his mother no longer needed to bathe him. Since he was old enough to take care of himself, right? But then the kid got even filthier, my man. He would go into the bathroom with his clean clothes, turn on the shower to make noise, and stay in there for a while. He would just change his clothes, spray some cologne, and think he was already clean. It turned out that his habit of not showering started to make his room smell bad. Bro, it even got to the point where there were flies, and when his mom went to wash the bed sheets, she would see that crust of dirt, bro. His parents didn't know what to do anymore and ended up ignoring the kid. It was exhausting for them to get this guy to take a shower. Until one night, his parents couldn't sleep anymore because of the terrible smell invading their room. They went to Jorginho's room, determined to force him to take a shower. For some reason, none of the lights in the house were working. They used their phone to light the hallway to his room. They saw a trail of water coming out of the bathroom and going toward the bedroom. They thought he had finally taken a shower. When they got there, they came across something unexpected. Everything was ruined and overturned. The sun was missing. His father, observing carefully, could see that what they thought was water on the floor was actually a transparent slime. They got scared and looked inside the bathroom. Everything was broken, man, and the drain was open. They looked inside the pipe, trying to solve this mystery, and saw only a piece of their son's clothing. They were desperate, but there was nothing they could do because there was no way for them to get in there. The authorities investigated the case, but nothing was found. But the creature that attacked their son is known for visiting the homes of people who don't bathe regularly. The bad smell our body produces makes this creature come out of the drain and look for the source of that odor. This creature lives in underground ducts and sewer galleries. In search of food, it consumes rats and decomposing animals. So it's always good to maintain your hygiene to avoid being visited by this sinister creature. There was an abandoned house in a small town. It was near a school, and stories were always told about this house that was abandoned and haunted by evil spirits. A boy from that school said that when he walked past the house one night, he could hear someone taking a shower, but it was completely dark inside. So, four friends decided to break into this haunted house and record some videos. They were going to try to capture something supernatural to go viral on YouTube and prove that ghosts exist. So, on the following night, around 12:33 ante meridiem, the friends went to the place. They jumped over a wall and reached the entrance of the house. In the yard, there were pieces of bones scattered around. When they opened the door, it collapsed. The hinge must have already been rusty, and inside the place, there was a lot of dust and cobwebs. The house must have been empty for about 60 years. They tried to turn on the lights, but there was no power in the place. They searched the house but found nothing supernatural. If ghosts lived there, they must have gone out for a walk. They heard the sound of drops coming from the bathroom, as if something was dripping. There was a red bathtub, kind of wet, and the shower above it was dripping. One of the boys got into the bathtub and went to turn off the faucet. But instead of turning it off, he opened it and the water fell on him. Everyone started laughing at the boy. He felt the water getting hotter. Wow, this old house falling apart actually has a hot shower. I'll take advantage and have a shower here. Taking a bath here in this haunted house should get me some views, right? He laid down in the bathtub and stayed there. But the water just kept getting hotter. He screamed and tried to get out, but he couldn't. His two friends tried to pull him out, but they fell into the bathtub too. The water started to bubble, bro. The steam filled up the bathroom and the girl who was recording ran out. You could barely see anything in there anymore. She only heard the screams of the three in the bathtub and ended up running away. Desperate, she tried to see what she had recorded on her phone, but it wasn't working. The next morning, she went to the place to see what had happened there. The shower was still dripping, but the bathtub didn't have any water left. There was no sign of her friends. They disappeared, so she placed her phone on the sink to record what she was about to do. She was very scared, turned on the faucet without entering the bathtub, and waited to see what would happen. The bathtub started filling up and bubbling. Suddenly, a tongue comes out of the drain, wraps around the girl, and she is pulled inside. The bathtub closes like the mouth of a hungry animal and crushes the girl. After these events, and with the recovery of the cell phone, everyone was terrified by the images. And they started saying that the red bathtub belonged to the devil himself and that it was just a gateway to the cell phone. It's Ebbia. Market. The activity is with Zanato. One night, a couple is getting ready to sleep after a busy day at work. Both are just thinking about laying their tired bodies on their soft, fragrant bed and sleeping peacefully. Their one-year-old son is sleeping in his room, and they always keep the baby monitor positioned near the child. If he wakes up, one of them will go. Then when they fall asleep, a sound is emitted. It seems like the baby is awake. The mother wakes up with this sound and goes to the room. However, the baby is sleeping deeply. She probably imagined she heard something, so she had a glass of water and went back to bed. As soon as she lay down, another sound came from the baby monitor. Now she's awake and can confirm that it really was a voice. She ran to the baby's room and everything was just as before. The baby sleeping. What was going on? Could her device be causing interference? The woman tries again to sleep. When she closes her eyes, she hears the following.
Baby, little baby, you are so cute. I love talking to you. One day I had a beautiful baby like this, but he grew up and left. Do you want to come with me and be my son, baby?
The woman wakes up her husband and they go to the child's room. The baby is holding the device and babbling with it. They are perplexed and terrified by the situation. Who was the person with that voice and where is it coming from? The husband said it must be someone nearby for the signal to be reaching there.
Your baby wants to come with me. I'll take him on a night when you least expect it.
The woman took the device from the baby's hand and asked who it was. They turned off the device and took out the battery. The next day they took it to the police and filed a police report. But they couldn't do much for them. Because there wasn't a number like on the phone, it wasn't possible to trace the origin of the signal. So they went home. They decided it would be better to put the baby's crib in their room for a while. Whatever happened, they would be right there, wouldn't they? So they slept through the whole night because they were very exhausted. The next morning, when they wake up, they go to check on the baby right away, and he's not there. He was probably stolen by the same person who was speaking on the baby monitor. They called the police to try to investigate the disappearance of the child. Checking the security cameras, the authorities were intrigued. At one point at around 3 a.m., the footage gets fuzzy for about 3 seconds. And right after that, the baby had already disappeared from the crib. To this day, the whereabouts of the baby are unknown, as well as who did this. All there are stories of babies being stolen from their families, just without any trace.